welcome back to Online PTE. Jasmine again. Today we are going to look at one of the most interesting parts of your reading test in PTE, Reorder. So Module 3 Reading, Task 3 Reorder. Reorder is one of the most interesting, not really tricky because it has got like a very simple formula. It's very interesting. Let's go through that one. Now, for this part, you may be given 2 to 3 tasks. Generally, reorder means a set of sentences which are not in the correct order. You may be given like 5 sentences. Together they make a paragraph, but the order is not correct. You need to put them in the correct order to make it a paragraph. This is the whole purpose of reorder. You kind of locate and put the sentences in the correct order, like which one should be first, and then next, and then third, fourth, and the last one. This is the reorder task. And you may be given 2 to 3 tasks of reorder in PTE Reading Test. What is really interesting about reorder test is its marking criteria, which is pair marking. Let's say, for example, the correct answer or the correct order of sentences for a given test is B, C, A, E, D. Okay, so 5 sentences, and this is the correct order. What is pair marking? B and C, 1 pair. C and E, 2 pair. A and E, E and D. Okay, which means you will have 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of sentences. So with these five sentences, you have 4 scores maximum. Now, what happens if we don't get, for example, D and E? Let's say, for example, we put it like this: B, C, A, D, E. Okay, so what happens? B and C is still a pair. C and A is also a pair. But do we have A and E here? No. Do we have E and D here? No. So this means 2 out of 4. Okay, so this is pair marking of reorder test in PTE. Now, what is really important in reorder paragraph test in PTE is you need to pay attention to a couple of things to make sure that your sentences are put in the correct order. The first and the most important one is conjunction. What do we mean by conjunction? Conjunctions are the words which are used to link the ideas in a paragraph together. We may use them at the beginning of a sentence or sometimes at the end of a sentence, depends on their function. Like although is a conjunction. For example is another one. However is another one. So these kind of short words or sometimes phrases that are used to connect the ideas together in paragraph are called conjunctions, and they do have different functions as well. In order to know the functions of different conjunctions, you need to download your worksheet, conjunction worksheets from your online portal. It is available there, ready to download. You need to get it, and you definitely need to go through it more carefully because they are grouped and categorized in different sections and they have different functions. Okay, now in order to get it clear, could you please turn to page 3 of your worksheet. So the first one is conjunction, and then reference is also very important. On page 3 of your worksheet, you have a sample test, and this sample test, which is sample of reorder test, has 5 sentences. They are not in the correct order. We are going to put them in the correct order together. Okay, let's take a look at these 5 sentences and highlight any conjunction or any reference. What is a reference? References are words that are used to refer to a noun. Let's say for example, I saw Tom yesterday and invited him to the party. So very simple example to know reference. References are words which are used in order to avoid repetition of noun. For example, here Tom is the noun and him is a reference which refers to Tom. Okay, so we can say that the words like, for example, this, like those, like these, same, so, such, And again, in order to know conjunctions and in order to expand your knowledge of, references, and in order to expand your knowledge of references, you need to download the worksheet, the reference worksheet available on your online portal. Okay, thank you. So let's take a look at sample test 1, and please, with a highlighter, try to highlight any reference or any conjunction that you see in the sentences. We are not going to reorder it right now. We're just going to know conjunction and reference. Okay? Yes. A. When this bank was founded, this is a reference. Yes. In 1695, Scots coinage was in short supply and of uncertain value compared with English, Dutch, Flemish, or French coin. So this here is a reference. In most countries, it is only the government through their central banks who are permitted to issue currency. Do we have any reference here? No. Everything is the first mention. It means everything is mentioned for the first time. How about C? To face growth of trade, it was deemed necessary to remedy this lack of an adequate currency. This lack of an adequate currency is referring to something which has been stated earlier, so it's a reference. D. But in Scotland, 3 banks are still allowed to issue banknotes. So but is a conjunction that starts the sentence here. Okay, it's a conjunction. It doesn't have any reference. D doesn't have any reference. It starts with a conjunction. E. The first Scottish bank to do this was the Bank of Scotland. Again, this is a reference. Okay, now what is the significance of knowing all these like points and like instructions? The first thing, it's a rule in English writing. Whenever you have a reference in a sentence, you must introduce that reference exactly in the previous statement. You cannot have, I don't know, 2 or 3 sentences distance and then introduce the noun or then go for referencing, okay? You must actually introduce the noun for the first time and exactly in the next sentence use references. This is the way we write in English, okay? And this is the standard of writing in English. With conjunctions, because conjunctions link the ideas together, they cannot be in your first sentence. I'm not saying 100% because we come across the tests, but very unique conjunctions can start sentences, but 98% of them cannot, okay? And another important thing is your first sentence in reorder must always be the first mention. Must always be the first mention, means all elements, all words of the first sentence in reorder must be mentioned for the first time. They shouldn't refer to anything else. Okay, so what is the first mentioned sentence in this sample test? Of course it is B. In most countries it is only the government through their central banks who are permitted to issue currency. It's a background statement. Everything is the first mention. It doesn't refer to anything else. Now, what comes next? Yes, but in Scotland, 3 banks are still allowed to issue bank notes. Look at B, who are permitted to issue currency, but in Scotland, 3 banks are still allowed to issue banknotes. In fact, B is stating, is like making a background statement, and D is kind of presenting a contrast idea about Scotland, starting with but. And what about next sentence, which is the third sentence? Yes, the first Scottish bank to do this was the Bank of Scotland here. So because we had a Scotland in D, and now it says the first Scottish bank, which is referring to the bank in Scotland, to do this. Whenever you have a reference, let me explain a bit further. Now you all know pair marking, which is quite amazing for reorder. Now, whenever you have a reference, okay, just ask yourself, what does refer to? If you get a clear response, if you get a clear answer for this one, it means your reorder will be okay too. Let's take a look at E. The first Scottish bank to do this. This is a reference, but what does it refer to? It refers to, yes, issue bank. It refers to issue banknotes. So in D, we say, but in Scotland, 3 banks are still allowed to issue banknotes. The first Scottish bank to do this. To do what? To issue banknotes. Does that make sense now? So we introduce issuing banknotes in D, and now in E, we use a reference to refer to that one. What comes next? Yes, A. When This bank, again, this is a reference. What does it refer to? Yes, Bank of Scotland. It refers to the Bank of Scotland. Exactly, again, reference. So Bank of Scotland is introduced. This bank is a reference in A referring to the same thing. When this bank was founded in 1695, Scots coinage was in short supply and of uncertain value compared with English, Dutch, Flemish or French coin. And we are left with C. To face growth of trade, it was deemed necessary to remedy this lack of an adequate currency. So how about this lack of an adequate currency? What does it refer to? It must refer to something in A. Yes, in short supply and of uncertain value. This is the noun, and this lack of an adequate currency refers to that one. Is it all clear now? So can you see how you can link your ideas with references and conjunctions? And how does it work in reorder? In fact, it is one of the biggest parts of reorder because generally what happens is candidates or students do not pay attention to tiny details. Like for example, this is not really a word. It's not really a four-letter word. It has a separate function. It is a reference. It has a separate grammatical function. I would definitely suggest an analytical reading for you all. You can go to public domains, public websites, TED for example, download short like lectures, the scripts of the lectures, not the audio as well, not the audio of course, the short lectures, and try to read it. Try to read the lecture or the text in relation to its references. This way you will broaden your knowledge, because what happens is that for most candidates this kind of referencing and conjunction pattern is not really common in their first language, but in English it is very common. It is used in a standard English everywhere. So in order to internalize the patterns of a standard writing and reading, you definitely need to do analytical reading. So again, you can go and download short texts about the subjects that are really interesting to you and try to read them in relation to references and conjunctions and see how the ideas move when we use proper conjunctions and references in a text. Okay? Thank you. Now, could you please turn to page 4 of your worksheet? On page 4 of the worksheet, we are going to go through one of the most popular models of writing in reorder. Yeah, actually a reorder test follows a certain pattern of idea movement. Like there are certain patterns of idea movement in English, and reorder follows them. I mean, it is a standard English writing. They cannot just create something by themselves. They do follow the standards of English writing. So before going through the text, I would like to explain the pattern here and then go to sample test or practice test 2 and try to find the pattern. Okay, there is a very popular structure in writing which is known as zigzag structure. Zigzag structure means in my first sentence, okay, I have an idea which is almost explained at the end of my sentence, okay, and then what I do is I get the idea and I expand it in my second sentence. The same idea, let's say for example this idea is marked by a star, the same idea is here, okay, and then I expand it here and then I create another idea. Let's say for example this idea is, let's say, a triangle, and this idea is further explained here in sentence 3. And then the sentence continues. You cannot follow zigzag structure for more than 2 to 3 sentences. Do not expect, for example, a 5-sentence reorder to follow zigzag for all 5 sentences. No, it doesn't really happen. But for 2 to 3 sentences, they may use zigzag as one of the models. And zigzag is quite common for writing and of course in reading as well. Okay, now let's track and follow up this zigzag structure here. Please pause the video and do this activity. I'm going to explain it again. Okay, thank you. Okay, how did you go? Yes, did you get the answer? How was the order of the test, the sentences? Could you get this order? B, D, A, C. Yes, is this the order that you got? If this is the order you got, yes, you're fine, 100% correct. Take a look at sentence B. The first requirement to be met in image analysis is that the reproduced picture shall not flicker, since flicker induces severe visual fatigue. D. So here in sentence A, which is sentence 1, which is B, we have the idea of flicker here. And now D. Flicker becomes more evident as the brightness of the picture increases. So the idea of flicker is further explained here. And here we come across the brightness of the picture. And then here, if flicker is to be unobjectionable at brightness suitable for home, again the idea of brightness is further explained here, for home viewing during daylight as well as evening hours, the successive illuminations of the picture screen should occur no fewer than 50 times per second. And see, this is approximately, so what does it refer to? What does this refer to here? Yes, the 50 times per second time. This is approximately twice the rate of the picture repetition needed for a smooth reproduction of motion. To avoid flicker, therefore, twice as much channel space is needed as would suffice to depict motion. So this paragraph, this sample test, followed a zigzag structure plus referencing to organize the ideas. Okay, please download your practice tests and do them at home, and just know that in your reading test in PT, again, you will have like 2 minutes for each part of the test. Try to follow the time order of the test, and at the beginning you can be quite generous with the time, but when you are going to practice in real time frame, just know that it's like 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. As usual, just remember, consistency and persistency are the key factors to success. So remember to do your activities and submit your homework on time. Your teachers are always waiting for you. Thank you. Bye.